Many of your works are temporary,
Yeah,
at least in the state that they're in at any given moment.
yes, unless they sell. And then they're
Oh
like,
yeah.
and then they're permanent for the collector. But if I have to store it, then it may be temporary. I have a work. It's called "The Language of," "The Language of Things," and it's a. I At the time I was buying like little girls' furniture, like for instance a vanity or a beauty salon, like for that little girls play with, or there was a Disney kitchen. And I was buying them because I wanted to show that young girls from an early age are taught that being pretty is most important, or being in the kitchen cooking is most important. And so I was at a thrift store and there was this pink Corvette, that the kids ride around in. And I'm like, oh, how can I use that in my work? I was like, does it fit? Is it the right message? And as I was standing there, this little boy runs up. He was probably 4 or 5 years old. And he was so excited. He's like, a car, a car. And like he ran up and he wanted to get inside. And his mom comes after him and she's like, no, that's for girls. And I was like, no. I was like, so I had to buy it. I was like, if they don't buy it, I'm going to buy it. And so I bought it and I ended up painting it, like covering it with drips and pours the way I paint and, calling it the language of things. So it's been in my studio. It's a big piece and it's been in the middle of my studio and I keep moving it around. And I have, like, for the last couple of years, I'm like, maybe I'll take it to like a car, I don't know what they're called, like a demolition place, and have it put in the, like, where you flatten the cars into pancakes, and do that. And then take that and put it in like one of those plastic comforter bags. That's an idea.
And speaking of just the way in which some of these things are just we're taught from an early age, I'm really curious to know whether you remember there was a time when you realized that maybe things weren't like the way that we were taught, or shouldn't be the way that we're taught, especially in terms of these gender lines.
For me, it happened later in life. I mean, I'm 47 and I just like woke up the last like 15 or 20 years. Um, I was an Air Force brat. And so, I grew up on an Air Force base until my parents divorced. And then it was like I lived in a more conservative town. And, not that I was sheltered, but I, I lived like I don't want to call it normal life, but a pretty, like, yeah, I wasn't woke like I am now. When I went to college, that's when I really woke up. I started, like, I wanted to take like the cultural, oh gosh, there was a cultural, not appropriation class, but it was something similar to that. And then I started taking like, classes on feminism, and I started learning and I was like, "Oh my God, how did I not know about this stuff?" And that's when my life changed and my world changed.
So it was just education. It's just the more culture we acquire, the more we realize that there may be another world beyond the world that we're aware of, or
It,
just it'll
yep,
open up our eyes. Interesting.
exactly.
Of course,
Exactly.
there would be like I know of some people that would disagree with that, in the sense that they sometimes education has this tendency to actually close our eyes, and that's probably another problem. But it sounds like you had a positive experience.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, education opened my mind, to other things. I mean, I still, I'm a liberal. I mean, I believe in humanity, but I grew up, like I said, an Air Force brat, which was pretty conservative. And so I'm able to look at both sides. And, I'm very proud that I'm able to do that. And I mean, most people are, but I mean, there's so much nuance in everything. Nothing is black and white. And when I took a class on contemporary art, which was all about, postmodernism, I'm like, that totally blew me away. We were talking about, ideas of black and white and what that meant. And, the idea of like, there's a man and a woman. And, up until then, like, I don't know, I just wasn't conscious that there was nuance in between. And I'm like, oh my God, those are the two extremes, but those are not, that's not it. There's much more in between. And I just wish more people could see that.